And what is the worst answer you have received to this question? Tell me about yourself.
I think worst, it is not worst, it is very standard. People start with, hello, my name is this, and they start with all those basic answers, which usually kills time, right? So in an interview, there is an approach called seeding, wherein the candidates have to seed in what they want the interviewer to talk about.
Okay.
So some candidates will talk about exactly from their starting history and all of that. Everybody likes stories. Even the interviewer who's sitting over there, they want to hear your story. Not a very methodical or career-wise, this year I was doing this and all of that. It should be your career story. That is how I do.
So tell me more about seeding. How exactly should one do that? Hello everyone and welcome to the Weekday Show. I'm your host Amit Singh, founder and CEO of Weekday, a hiring marketplace where job seekers can 8x their chances of finding their perfect job, and recruiters can supercharge their productivity by accessing the largest database of talent in the country. We have 80% of white-collar workforce of India on our platform. Check out Weekday at weekday.works. Happy to present to you the Weekday Show, where recruitment leaders share actionable insights and answer the most common hiring FAQs, and explore the hiring process from both sides and dissect real-life interview scenarios. Our guest for today is Sumit Premi, who's Director of Talent Acquisition at Flipkart. He has more than 13 years of experience, has worked in Flipkart for around 5 years. Welcome to the show, Sumit.
Thanks, Sumit.
All right. So, Sumit, we'll basically talk about hiring, how does recruitment happen, what exactly should one do in interviews, and what should recruiters learn from these interviews. First section, we'll talk about, we'll ask a few rapid fire questions, which basically mean there'll be questions regarding certain interview scenarios. And secondly, we'll talk more about your journey and how exactly does talent acquisition work.
All right. Shoot.
All right. So, are you ready?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What is the best answer you've heard for, do you have any questions for me? That question that is generally asked at the last of the
Very
interview.
interesting one. I'll not take the name of the campus. I was interviewing for an engineering profile. A chemical engineering student, brilliant in coding. I looked at the feedback, right? Brilliant, outstanding ratings and all of that. I was very impressed. Very strong, confident chap. I asked him anything you'd want to ask. He said, I don't want to ask anything, but I want to tell you, please do not hire me. I was back to my movie set. I'm like, ऐसा तो movies में होता है. I was like, what is the reason? He said, sir, I know I can do something of my life. In the area where I live, every fourth person is into the same industry. I don't want to join that. My parents have asked me to get a job, but if I get a job here, they will sign me out of the placement process, and the kind of organization I want to work with, I will not get a chance to sit there. He said, my only request is, please do not select me, and please do not tell this to the training and placement cell, otherwise they will blacklist me. So I was like, wow. That is one, anything question, and he's like, entire thing changed. So that is one thing I always remember. That confidence.
I'm guessing you did not end up hiring that.
Of course I did not. I was very clear. I wrote a very detailed feedback over there saying that the candidate is good, but the aspirations might not match with our organization philosophy, but a good talent, we should watch out for this talent in future and stuff like that.
All right. What is the worst answer that you've heard for this question?
Worst, that is where that overconfidence, right? I was interviewing somebody with, of course, on the engineering side, 3-4 years of experience. Good guy. I asked what is anything you would want to ask. There are two types of questions which basically annoy me. This question was not the worst, but I was like, seriously, it's like, in how many years will I become head of the department? I was like, okay, what do you mean by that? So you are saying it is a fast performing growth. If I get a promotion, this. I was like, I did not like that basically. For me, it was like, that is not what you should ask. You should go there, perform. Although I ended up telling him how the promotions work, how do you grow the role and stuff like that.
The next one, what is the best salary negotiation conversation you remember?
Okay, very interesting experience. So after all the thing is done, of course, the last round when you ask for documents from the candidate, candidates know now it would be salary, because you ask for salary slips, comp letters, and stuff like that. So there's this candidate. I was like, let's talk about your expectation. He said, wait, let me share my screen with you. Right. So it was in fact an in-person interview. He had carried his laptop. He opens up an Excel sheet. Give me a detailed breakup. Sumit, this is what I'm earning right now. These are my expenses. If I join your organization, this cost will go up. My son is getting into this school. My expense is going up. This is where I am. The reason I applied for this organization, I was expecting this much hike. If you give me this much, I will join. That is how the negotiation started. He said, that is very clear in my head. How much money do I need? It was not a random figure. The guy came prepared. I was like that, although we did not go through that, acha, iska itna kharcha and stuff like that, but the kind of preparation and the clarity in the head of switching and getting that hike is something, I remember that. I remember that Excel sheet, very nicely made Excel sheet, which I saw.
But does negotiating for salary work in general in large organizations, in companies like Flipkart?
I mean, that is the trick I'll not share since this is a public podcast. Sure. But of course, see, there are ranges which every recruiter has. And it is not only the salary negotiation. There are a lot of parameters and factors come into picture. How the interview went, what is the feedback of the panel. I mean, you also take care of internal parity. I always am a firm believer, while of course fight for talent is real, hiring one should not be a reason for two to leave. If you get somebody at a higher salary, salaries are no more hidden. Everybody knows everybody's salary. You have portals like Blind and stuff like that. It is a public information. You have to be very fair to our internal employees. That is where recruiters know where to draw a line. You can take exceptional approvals, know the candidate is good and stuff like that. But that is where it has to be org first as well. So those are the things you have to calculate even beforehand. The first conversation when you're having with the candidate, right? When they're interested, ensure the salary expectations are understood. The person might not be expecting stars and you have somewhere to moon to land to. Then you are wasting time of the panelists and everybody who's there in the ecosystem.
And is it okay for a candidate to also ask that like in the first introductory conversation as well?
So the first conversation which happens with the recruiter, that is where salaries get discussed. The expectations, not salaries, but the expectations. It is not advisable to have those conversations during your technical and manager rounds, right? Because that is where the recruiter role comes into picture. So we do that filtering, right? The CV which goes from us to the hiring manager is only after all the checks and balances have taken care of. Parity check, years of experience, be it educational qualification, the number of years, so that you are not hiring somebody with 20 years of experience while the peers are at 6-7 years of experience. All these checks and balances have to be done by a recruiting firm. That is where, while AI would solve for other checks, these salary and stuff, these needs to be discussed as well very clearly.
All right. What is the best answer to the typical tell me about yourself question that you've heard so far in your career?
All right. See, this is a very cliche question we always ask.
Yeah.
I think that is where we want a confident answer. Not one of the best, but what stands out is because we already have the CV, right? And that is when somebody came in and said, I submitted my profile over email. I'm sure you would have gone through it. Why not talk about something which is not there on the CV? With the candidate assuming I've gone through it, which is a prerequisite for an interviewer as well, which we don't go through the CV beforehand. I think that is one answer which stands out wherein the candidate is equally confident and it is job of an interviewer also to scan the CV. So that would be one of the anecdotes.
Like, where does that line between overconfidence and confidence lie?
Perfect. So I think it is how you narrate your story. Whatever you have written on your CV, of course, now you have ChatGPT, right? Everybody knows how to reprogram and re-engineer and reverse engineer as per the job description. Whatever is there in the CV, we, with our experience, get to know what is FAF and what is actual reality. So when you're talking your story, right, your career graph and all of that, that is where I feel it draws the line between overconfidence and confidence. You get to know when the candidate is actually saying what he actually means or he has gone through it.
And what is the worst answer you've received to this question? Tell me about yourself.
Worst, I mean, it is not worst, it is very standard. People start with, hello, my name is this, and they start with all those basic answers, which usually kills time, right? So in an interview, there is an approach called seeding, wherein the candidates have to seed in what they want interviewer to talk about it. So some candidates, they'll talk about exactly from their starting history and all of that. Everybody likes stories. Even the interviewer who's sitting over there, they want to hear your story. Not a very methodical or career wise, this year I was doing this and all of that. It should be your career story. That is how I will look at it.
So tell me more about seeding. How exactly should one do that?
Perfect. So I remember, in fact, it is one of my personal experience when I was a candidate. I was sitting for campus placements for Tech Mahindra, right? There were 3 people. It was sort of a group interview. First time I was going through that. I was very nervous, gave the answers, and stuff like that. One of the person who was sitting next to me, he used this technique brilliantly. So when he started talking, same question, talk about yourself. While he was talking about, okay, I'm this, I'm studying this, and I have worked on a project which is very unique called this. Now that gets the eyeballs. Okay, what is this project? So basically, he was the one in each line, he was throwing one thing and interviewer was asking those questions. That is a beautiful trick. So especially at early careers and people who are starting their career, in couple of first 5-6 interviews, right, in a career, seeding is something which we should learn. Then I did a research, acha kaise kiya. It was basically said, I was also taught by my mentor that this is how you should proceed with an interview.
And rather than talking like as of 10 minutes, exactly, just taking out
it is the stories.
Yeah.
Right? It is the interviews have to be more conversational. Mm-hmm. That is what everybody enjoys, and the span of attention has gone down quite a lot. Correct. You have to get that attention from both ways.
So the next one, what is your favorite interview question to ask?
The question which I ask, to get the sense of the organization from the candidate is, so I would give them a situation. Let's say we offer you today and you get offer from another company in next week. What would be the 3 reasons you will reject us, not select us? I want to hear those 3 things which will put my organization on the second spot. And while not everybody says it very comfortably, but at least I get the sense that tells me what is the verbatim around the organization outside. This question I feel helps in, that is for me a feedback for the organization and for the recruiter, what we want to hear from the candidates.
And I'm guessing there are no right or wrong answers.
There are no right or wrong answers. It is about the perception. For example, I ask you, okay, you have an option from Flipkart and another e-commerce company. Why would you not choose Flipkart?
Yeah.
Then the person might say, maybe I've heard the growth is not good. Maybe I've heard the work-life balance is not good. They will say basis what they have heard from alumni. Although they would not say, no, I want to join this company, of course. But when you make the candidate comfortable, right, it is more of a conversation. Without putting it is a situation, and situational based interviews never have right or wrong answers. It is, what do you think about that particular scenario? And
you can clarify those doubts, which are like issues that
I don't go on defense usually. Of course, in a very subtle way, I put it across. It is not to, because otherwise the candidate will feel uncomfortable. What happens after an interview is, I'm sure you would have given interviews yourself. If a candidate is interested for a job and they have given an interview, 80% of the candidates will replay every word they said till the time the result is given to them. It will be like, मैंने ये गलत तो नहीं बोल दिया था? Did I go overboard? That is basic psychology, right? And as a recruiter, I know when I was a candidate, how did I feel? So making that candidate comfortable, giving them that space to express, and then of course clarify, no, this is how it is. So that candidate, once they leave out of the door, they should not be feeling, यार मैंने गलत तो नहीं बोल दिया कुछ. But that is something which I put them through a situation.
All right. The next one. Can you recall one moment from an interview where the impression of the candidate completely changed? It could go from positive to negative or negative to positive as well.
This is back in 2012. I was in Jammu for one of the campus hiring thing, right? HR interview, basic. I was asking candidate was, okay, I mean, like a typical third year student answering and all of that. I asked, okay, tell me something which is very unique about you, which you have done over there. Now, that third year student told me that, and we're talking 2012, huh? Startups were not a thing.
Yeah,
back
were not
then.
a thing.
Were not a thing. He said, I run a business with 3 of my friends. I said, what business do you run? He said, we tie up with all the party places in Jammu and procure discounts and we give it to our hostel mates. So they make that deal that these many people from hostel would come. If they come, this is the discount you give and this is their commission. Think about the thought process at that point in time. This is how many of the players take deals, discounts which you talk about. In that ecosystem, they have started that thing. And he said, not only here, and the locals in Jammu, we keep on sharing through messages or meeting them that this is the discount. They printed those pamphlets and all of that with their names. So it is about the thought process. The candidate, I was like, okay, now this guy has a entrepreneurial mindset as well. And he's thinking differently. It is not about making money. It is about figuring out something which can be done and doing it. I was like very impressed. I still remember I was also very young over there. After the interview, I stood up, I shook hands with him. I was like, well done. If at this age and when there was no technology, right? Even WhatsApp, I don't remember was there properly or not. It was not there, I think, right? At that time, taking that step, that time anyway, ladka karega abhi jaake kuch. Of course, we offered him. I don't know whether he stayed in the organization for long or not. But I mean, different set of people, right?
All right. Taking a different direction, what is the most inappropriate thing a candidate has ever said or done during an interview?
See, one of the candidates, I felt not uncomfortable, but of course, experienced person, right? 5-6 years of experience. I was also in similar years of experience. I told him how many years I've been working for. He asked me, what is your salary? How have been your increments? That was very inappropriate. Of course, the person knew that I'm from HR. Like, can you tell me what is your salary? How many increments have you got so far? So that I can also calculate how much. Then I had to give him that peace of mind. No, that's not very right. You don't do this. Salaries are confidential and you are being hired for a different role. I'm in a different role. You cannot be comparing. If you think I'll give you an idea and stuff, I was like, so that is like inappropriate.
Okay. Yeah. That is one thing you should not do, folks. Yeah. All right. That brings us to the end of this segment. We'll talk a little bit more about your journey now. So can you walk me through, like, at what point did you decide that you wanted to get into recruitment or HR?
Of course, like I said, this is where I'll talk briefly about my story, right? I did my engineering in electronics and communication, 2008. My first company it was the Pool campus era at that point in time. It has just started. Infosys was the organization. I cleared the online test. Then I think one technical interview also I cleared. Then it was only one discussion left. They said it is an HR discussion. We did not know what HR discussion is. An engineer, how would they know back in 2007? My entire friend group, like, you know English. This you will anyhow crack. Okay? I know English. So basically this is about English speaking. So I went in. I could not get through. I was rejected. I think there are from my college, there was around 6-7 people. 2 got rejected. I was one of them. I was like, how do I go back? And for me, it was not about that thing, but what did the person gauge in me and the person rejected me? What is this HR all about? That is where HR came to my life for the first time. Then second, I told you about that incident, like Tech Mahindra. I got through in that. So again, I was like, this is an amazing, powerful role. The young fellow, so he is taking decisions. But that is where I got into my head, there is something called an HR, fancy job and stuff. But I was placed in Tech Mahindra, very clear, not a good engineer I was, of course. I'd learned very little bit of coding, which I regret so far. I should have done better in coding. But I cracked the interview and stuff. Recession happened over there. The joinings were postponed. right? I come from not typical, but of course, in Punjab, I was very clear I don't have to take any more money from my parents. I joined a KPO. It was a night shift and stuff. I said, I'll do job over there. I started doing a job, small organization, 200 odd people, or even less maybe. There was one HR person. Of course, since I was good in English, I used to help her in maybe engagement activities and stuff like that. Anything. And also closely helping her with recruitment as well sometimes. That is where I got to know, okay, this is a good field. I had only experienced HR, who was an MBA, HR, other people were there, but again, from the technical side. One fine day, my father calls me, and suddenly, in the month of November, he tells me, "Beta, my friend's son has done an MBA. He's got a good package of 4-5 lakhs." Like, Sumit, why don't you do MBA? Like, Papa, where did this come from? But then I like, no, Sumit, why don't you give it a try? I said, Papa, CAT is over. There's no exam. He said, no, he did it from XYZ college. Just figure out. So I said, let me try. So there were, at that point in time, there was other exams, MAT, ATMA, the 1, 2, 3 exams. Good thing is what engineering taught us was analytical skills. Luckily, with God's grace, God was kind, I got good percentile. So then the private colleges were open for me, right? I had good option that I got GDPI calls and all of that. One of my criteria was I wanted to go to a college which had minimal fees and a decent ROI. So one of my colleague in that office only, her fiance was studying in one of the B schools. I checked, he said, he's got a package of 6 lakhs. I got tick. He said, what is the fees? 4 lakhs. I said, tick. So I remember that college I failed. Their GDPI was not there in either NCR or Chandigarh. I took a train, went to Pune just to give the GDPI over there. Now, while I was doing all of that, I was very clear I had to do HR.
Oh, okay.
There was no mentor at that point in time, right? We could only hear from some of the friends who were there. I come from Punjab, right? And my family was the only one who stepped outside Punjab. In fact, when I got an admission, my mother tells me, Sumit, do it from Ludhiana only, no? It is the same course. I said, no, mama, it is not the same thing. It is exposure, so many things and stuff like that. So, but with these small experiences, it was there in my head. I want to do HR.
Okay.
Right. I had heard marketing for me was sales. I was like, okay, it is fine, but I want to do HR. Things which I had seen in my journey so far experience, it sort of thought, okay, I want to do this.
But was it more extrinsic about what?
It was extrinsic.
Or intrinsic?
It was extrinsic.
Extrinsic, okay.
That is, I had no clue what is OD, TD, LND. For me, I had seen what recruitment, period. That's about it. And somewhat of engagement I had seen. I was very passionate. I was like, recruiting is a funny, or not funny, but a great, fabulous job. I mean, you give jobs to people, like everybody respects you and stuff like that. That is where all the campuses, I remember I got this thing in Wellinger as well. It was a BIS course. And the college where I studied BIMM, it was an HR course. I said no. Well, both the colleges were good and all of that. I said I want to do HR. So that is where the journey of HR started. And the moment I started studying, it expanded the horizon. But when I got my first job, I was very clear in my head, I want to do TA. I want to do TA only. I said, they asked for a bit of preference. I said, I want to do recruitments. Because, I mean, I'm a firm believer of you remember your dreams. You don't forget it once you be there. I have had that dream and stuff like that. So that's where it is. And I started off my career with recruitment, but God has been kind. I got opportunity to work in multiple roles. I've done HR BP in this thing, campus hiring, lateral hiring. I was part of sourcing team as well. But as the career has evolved, I'm doing TA.
But a lot of early professional sort of HR professionals that I talk to, for a lot of them, okay, like talent acquisition is okay. Is my stepping stone. From there on, I'll probably go into sort of other things. I'll do commercial benchmarking or L&D or there's a lot of stuff. What advice would you have for them?
See, okay, now that I have done multiple roles, right? My advice to everybody who's starting their career in HR, right? ensure you have an HRBP stint. If you start off with an HRBP stint, it is a great thing, because TA, of course, is an SME and you start running in one direction. Of course, it is a lot of external facing. In an HRBP, you get flavor of your internal stakeholders. Once you hire a candidate, what happens to the candidate after that? If you experience, so ideally, if you want to start with a 2-3 year stint in TA, do that. Then do an HRBP stint. And then rethink, now if I have to do TA, because that's what I am doing. Yeah. I've done an HRBP stint. A lot of things in my head change. Because now I know the career path, the candidates whom we offer, they go through. How are they treated? What is the kind of roles? It gives me a broader pitch to talk to the candidate. I'm not only relying to JDs only, right? That is where it is talent acquisition business partner. You have to be very closely working with your hiring managers and your HR partners to understand it is not only a JD. ये skill आता है, ये skill आता है, इतना that is not how it is. Because candidates now, they think about, okay, how is my career going to look like? Career development is very important. So once you have that breadth, right, my advice would be surely do an HRBP stint and do other CVs. It is not a marathon. I mean, in HR, there are enough and more areas you can explore while still being a specialist. If you want to pursue a career in TA, that would be my advice.
Are you struggling to hire talent? At Weekday, we have built a database of 80% of white-collar workforce with their email, phone number, resume, and salary details. And you can send automated email plus WhatsApp plus call sequences to them. Yes, we call candidates on your behalf as well. Because India runs on WhatsApp and calls, we end up getting as high as 40% response rate. Gone are the days of sending a LinkedIn invite and waiting for days for someone to accept. Just use Weekday. Whether you are looking for a database to supercharge the productivity of your recruiters, or you're looking at a complete AI recruiter to do everything for you, we have a solution for you. Visit weekday.works to know more. So now let's talk a little bit about how exactly does talent acquisition work. So for like majority of this audience, this would be people who would not have probably interacted with a lot of HR professionals apart from maybe 1 or 2 sort of rounds. So what exactly happens when in the background, when let's say I see a job posting on a careers page, and from there on, or even prior to that, what exactly happens behind the scenes?
So recruitment has changed quite a lot from when I started to what I'm doing right now. Right? I still remember every recruiter in my first organization had a cupboard which was full of papers, wherein there would be audit of those papers, CVs would. In fact, I remember my internship in Maruti, we did a newspaper ad as well for the job posting, although the responses were on email, some were on post, but that's how it was. Now, no matter whether you have a degree or not, you have a smartphone with you, right? The accessibility has gone beyond limits now, right? Now, I'll tell you a use case. I'm sure you would have seen any of the organization, right? Be it one of the organizations where everybody aspires to work. The day they post a job, in 2 days, you will get thousands of applications. I'm a recruiter. What do I do with those 1,000? Is it possible for me to scan all 1,000 CVs? All right. Which CVs do I pick and choose? Now that is my ATS. Then I have other tools like Naukri, LinkedIn, InstaHire. What do I do with them? Now there is dearth of options, but still we say we are not getting the right candidate. So, and with the tools like ChatGPT, now even the CVs are replica of a JD. Earlier, candidates would say, okay, there is a game of keywords, right? I mean, it is, everybody knows how recruitment works, how on top of the stack rank your CV comes and stuff like that. But we do get a lot of relevant profiles. While we use AI tools to filter out and eliminate profiles which are not relevant, still we are left with a lot of good profiles. Now, that is where I think the game starts in terms of how well your CV is crafted. I heard it somewhere in one of the leaders said it. You know what is an average time a recruiter spends on a CV?
15 seconds?
It is less than that.
10 seconds.
Somewhere in between. I mean, it's not data backed. I mean, a very tenured leader said it.
Yeah,
so
everybody would have.
Of course, everybody would have, but it is in seconds.
Yeah.
Right. In a second, your profile is scanned. And whether you get a call or not, it depends on those 20 seconds. Right. So it is like you have to make a beautiful CV. No, that is not the thing. Beautifying of CVs, it has to be crisp and sharp. The information which there should not be generic statements in a CV, right? And while the impact you have brought in your role, that is what a recruiter would be more interested in. Now, these are the differentiators between a normal profile, because ChatGPT will give you a beautiful English. They will paraphrase the JD and give you an answer. But the impact you have brought in, how you summarize your entire profile, that becomes very handy. At the same time, now candidates should know which is the right channel to apply, right? I am a firm believer, the best channel for hiring for every recruiter these days is employee referral.
Okay.
LinkedIn does that, right? You are connected and every day around 3 or 4 messages I get, they ask me to refer, right? While I would have accepted their connection, but referring comes with credibility, that you are credible enough and stuff like that. But referrals is one of the most important channels. Some of the organizations, they ensure if you have applied through a referral, you will get a response, which is not the case with a direct application. Then what all tools, I mean, company's portal is very important, right? Having your profiles updated on Naukri, InstaHire, it is important. You have to keep on updating them because there are lakhs and lakhs of candidates. How you update them regularly so that they are not outdated. The recruiter also gets to see how active the person is. Plus, there are a lot of other filters which all these job portals have started coming in, wherein you can discreetly say you're open to work. This is what it is. So that recruiter gets a signal, okay, the person is also looking out, because many a times a profile on a Naukri or LinkedIn, you might reach out to the person. The first question is, are you looking out for a job? Now, it is contradictory, right? You got the profile on Naukri, which means the person was willing to, but then you're asking the question. What happens is the profiles are very old over there. Somebody would have gotten a job and now they are not looking out. So that gap, I think with these tools, it is getting bridged.
Mm-hmm. But for a candidate, like among the different channels, so you mentioned referrals.
Referrals is like the topmost.
Second would be these platforms.
See, it depends where, senior roles, right? Of course, Naukri has been there, right? Whenever you ask about job change karna, the first mover is Naukri, right? Monster was there. Monster is not that big right now, maybe, but we don't use much. But Naukri is there. So Naukri is by default. Every organization would have a Naukri license. And then you have very specific portals. I give you an example of InstaHire for tech hiring. That is it. LinkedIn is emerging out to be a great source now. Right? Many of the companies are moving there, right? The kind of insights we get from there. LinkedIn is one of the channel. While you don't get a detailed summary over there, but the kind of filters, you can scan through the profiles in a crisp way. You can look at the companies, what all companies the person has worked on and how much it is updated. That is also, especially at the senior level roles, right? Mid to senior. LinkedIn is coming very handy.
So now, let's say I've identified the channel. Within resume, you mentioned that, okay, I have to mention sort of the impact that I've created. Yeah. What else can I do to sort of increase my chances as an applicant?
See, trust me, there's no right answer to this, Amit. Because when we are saying, I'll give you an example of an SD 2 or a 3, right? In a city like Bangalore, any guess how many companies are there? You Google it later on.
Yeah, I don't know.
And majority of tech organizations, right? When I post a SD2 role, every organization would have a relevant candidate. They would want to apply, right? Is there a trick wherein say if you do this, your profile would get shortlisted? The answer is no. It is that I said employer referrals being topmost of it, and how updated and sharp your profile is. you have to be, and how connected you are with the organization as well. Because the recruiters will call. It is, so our selection ratio, it is not that this thing. So to hire one, we take around 7 to 8 candidates for a lead. That's a big number.
So 7 to 8 in the starting introductory call.
Yes.
The ones who clear the introductory call.
Yes.
Okay. And from that,
From
1%.
that, it is there.
So just out of curiosity, for example, just for inbound applications that you get, for one, let's say SD2, over a period of, let's say, 1 week it is live, how many applications would generally be there?
I told you, right? One job posting will have minimum 2 to 3,000 applications. Right? That is where we rely on our ATS, right? What it does is it filters out, and it gives me a relevance check percentage. How strongly the profile, it is a strongly match, it is a good match, it is a weak match. Again, but that is an algorithm which the person who created would have put basis the matches in the keyword. Yeah. Is that the accurate one? No. You still need to go through that profile. Somebody might have created a replica of what I need in the JD, but might not have worked on the exact skill set. So that gap will always be there. All these companies are coming up, right? We will increase the speed of hire, quality of hire, while AI is coming in. But AI is there for the candidate as well. And the candidate is very smart. They know how to reverse engineer. So that is where that recruiter role, and how, while the introductory call is happening, right? Every recruiter will have those set of questions which they will ask during that, right? That is how they have to understand. When the candidate answers, we get to know depth and stuff like that.
And so from a recruiter's perspective, you mentioned, like, for example, there's like a SD2 role. Now, my first one would be, are there any referrals that are coming to me? That is the first thing I check. The second thing, will I look at all the inbound applications that have come on ATS, or you would look at platforms?
So all of this happens in parallel. Oh. It is not that we will only look at because somebody so there are two channels, right? Somebody who has referred, which means the candidate is certainly looking out. And it comes from your internal employee. The credibility is high. I will not refer somebody who I don't know or a junk profile. Credibility is high. Second, somebody who took an effort to apply on your portal. Applying on portal is not easy. It takes time. One page 2, upload your CV, which means that person is certainly looking out for their job and is interested in your organization. So ER and my inbound applications on my portal, they are my P0 to start with, right? And if I get to see, the relevant profiles are not coming, then I get into my job portals. Wherein, because the control is there in terms of keywords, what I want to search.
Yeah.
So that is where I think this will be the P2.
Okay. So the last question, which basically will end on, is what advice would you give to like applicants or job seekers, which you have not given so far?
Network. Very important, right? Especially...
How does one do that?
See, of course, you have these platforms like LinkedIn and all of that. My advice to everybody is, please do not send your CVs directly. Okay, I saw this, can you refer me, and all of that. Everybody who is either a recruiter or a engineering manager would be getting so many of them. I mean, you hardly know that person and you're asking the person to refer. If you're actually interested in an organization, start engaging in conversations through multiple channels, right? You have a lot of people who are working there. Engage with them on conversations. What is the technology they're working on? What is their plan? So that, and to express your interest that you are interested in over there. CV is a binary thing, right? It is not that you share a CV and work done. You have to understand that ecosystem. And you create that recall in the mind of the person. For me, when somebody has that conversation with me, right, I might not refer that person for an next role immediately, but whenever that role comes into picture, I still remember that the person has took an effort in understanding the organization. Everybody wants a job, but how do you start working towards it, right? CV should be updated. I mean, these are all cosmetic things, but ensure your CV is updated, right? Keep it short, simple. One-pager CVs, I mean, now gone are the days over there. Keep it very crisp, sharp. Referrals, again, are very important. Other than that, very important, while everybody wants to work in an organization, do a research about the organization. Even before Monday you get a call, you should be knowing what organization is going through. What is their EVP, right? Does it resonate with what you want to do? Because that is where the conversation becomes all the more important. Okay, I read this is what you're doing. Because one thing is each candidate applies for 10 different companies at one point in time. I mean, that is a different thing. But you're very particular that you want to go to X, Y. Invest time in knowing that organization. And I am a firm believer, manifestation works. It works, right? And it is not only manifestation, it is the effort you put in towards certain things. It will work through. It will happen.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Sumit, for this insightful session. Thank you so much. Anything else that you wanted to mention for our viewers out there?
Nothing. I mean, see, it's a very, I'll not say a competitive market, but with tools and technology, I'm sure there'll be a lot of frustration in candidates. I mean, there is this meme goes, HR never gets back, recruiter never gets back, right? Being into the other side for quite some time, I know when I discuss with my team, I look at the top of the funnel. I know they're also human beings. Is it possible to reply to all those candidates? No, right? So that is one piece which I think it gives a false narrative that applying, of course, application, the reason we have created applicants, but the supplies, it is the gap between supply and demand, right? Which will always be there. But the demand is also great. So be optimistic, have that consistency, in terms of if you want to apply and want to work in an organization, it will happen. Companies are growing, they're hiring is not going to stop. You've seen peaks of the season. The consumer tech organizations, everything is there in the mobile phone, right? So that's what.
All right. On that note, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amit.
Thank you. Are you looking for a job? You can 8x your chances of getting one by using Weekday. How 8x? By doubling the chances on 3 fronts: referrals, customizing your resume, and applying to double the jobs. Weekday can help you on all 3 fronts. Did you know that you can double your chances of getting a job by asking referrals? You can do that via Weekday by just one click, where people can give referrals to the existing companies via the Weekday platform. The second one is customizing your resume for every role. Did you know that 60% of the applicants of a job are never seen by a human recruiter? You can double your chances by customizing your resume based on every job posted. Well, it's not feasible to do that. You can do that via AI. So Weekday's Chrome extension allows you to customize your resume for any job. The third front is applying to double the jobs. Imagine if there was an easy apply on every careers job posted everywhere. What we allow via front-end automations is that you can just click once and no need to fill multiple long forms on every careers page. Give that information to us once and utilize it everywhere else.